He was the scariest looking guy at school. He stood 2 meters tall, weighing 120 kilograms. Countless underclassmen admired him, some even idolized him, though Takeo appeared fierce and intimidating. He had a kind and gentle heart. He always wanted to uphold justice. When he saw a molester harassing a girl on the bus, Takeo was the first to rush over and stop him. The girl hadn't even fully realized what was happening when she suddenly turned around and saw Takeo's face. Her big, teary eyes and adorable expression stopped him in his tracks. In that instant, Takeo was captivated. He had never seen such a beautiful girl before. To say he didn't feel his heart flutter would be a lie. The molester was taken to the police station, but he refused to admit his actions. He even falsely accused Takeo of hitting him. The girl immediately pointed him out. The molester hadn't expected her to dare identify him, and he erupted in angry curses. Takeo couldn't tolerate it any longer. He threw a punch. He hated men like that the most, but taking action in front of the police was wrong. Takeo was ultimately punished with a 1-week suspension. He had no choice but to stay home. His friend Makoto worried he'd fall behind in school, so he brought his class notes over. At that moment, the girl he had saved earlier came to Takeo's house as well. She introduced herself as Rinko. She had come to thank Takeo, bringing a box of handmade sweets. Looking at Rinko's pure, innocent appearance, Takeo couldn't help but blush. Actually, on the bus, he had already fallen for Rinko. Makoto wanted the two of them to be alone, so he made an excuse to leave first, but Rinko suddenly called after him. Takeo was used to this kind of situation. He and Makoto had been friends since kindergarten. The girls around him had only liked the handsome Makoto, while showing nothing but disdain for him. Strangely, though, Makoto never accepted those girls. Takeo had gradually gotten used to this life, so when he saw the scene before him, he assumed Rinko hadn't come to thank him. She must be here to get close to Makoto. Although he liked Rinko very much, he believed she could never like him. After the girl left with Makoto, Takeo felt a little downhearted, but still silently wished them happiness in his heart. Just then, he suddenly heard a phone ringing under the table. When he picked it up, he realized it was the phone Rinko had accidentally left behind. Takeo immediately said he would return it to her the next day, but the next day, he brought Makoto along to accompany him. He simply thought that seeing Makoto would make Rinko happy. Takeo felt that as long as he could make the person he liked happy, he was willing to do whatever he could. When Makoto and Takeo arrived, Rinko looked embarrassed. She felt bad for making them come just to return the phone, so this time she brought a box of homemade macarons. Takeo only took one bite and couldn't stop praising them. He kept complimenting Rinko on her cooking skills. Makoto was curious about how they were made, and asked Rinko for guidance. Takeo, however, noticed carefully that Rinko's face had turned red, her expression shy and flustered. This made him even more certain Rinko must like Makoto. Takeo got up and rushed into the toilet, burying his face in the sink, hoping the cold water would calm him down enough to let go of the person he liked, because Rinko liked Makoto, his best friend. Takeo returned with a heavy heart. Rinko quickly grabbed a towel to wipe his face, but she didn't know that at that moment, Takeo had quietly decided he would help Rinko pursue Makoto, and in his own way, make her happy. To create a chance for Rinko and Makoto to meet, Takeo lied that he still wanted to taste the sweets Rinko had made. Rinko was genuinely happy, but she only asked what flavor Takeo liked, without asking anything about Makoto. Under the setting sun, Rinko waved goodbye to Takeo, her beauty so captivating that he couldn't look away. Yet in his heart, Takeo thought, no matter how beautiful Rinko was, she ultimately belonged to Makoto. On the way home, Makoto suddenly said, "That girl, she's really nice." Takeo was especially surprised, because Makoto had never complimented any girl before. Takeo thought to himself that Makoto must like Rinko too. Just then, Rinko came running back, out of breath. It turned out she had walked away too quickly earlier, and forgot to ask for Takeo's phone number, so she had run all the way to catch up. Seeing her in such a flustered state, Takeo thoughtfully handed her a handkerchief, and left his own contact information as well. In that moment, he admired how hard Rinko was working for the person she liked. She and Makoto together were absolutely perfect for each other. The next day at school, Rinko sent a message asking them to meet up. This time, she brought a chocolate cake, which Takeo really liked, and he ate quite a lot. Makoto worried he might choke, so he got up to buy some water. As soon as Makoto left, Takeo began talking to Rinko about all of Makoto's great qualities. Not only was Makoto handsome, he was also smart. And he didn't have a girlfriend. Takeo also told Rinko that Makoto was kind. When Takeo wet his pants as a kid, Makoto would laugh, but he would also deliberately spill water on himself, so Takeo wouldn't feel embarrassed. When they went on outings and Takeo forgot his lunch, Makoto would tease him for being clumsy, but he would share his own lunch with a smile. Takeo kept going on about how wonderful Makoto was, which actually made Rinko a bit puzzled. At that moment, Makoto returned. Takeo looked at the two of them, feeling a warm sense of satisfaction. As the sun began to set, they walked together to see Rinko off. Takeo felt an extraordinary sense of pride, because helping others achieve happiness was the most beautiful feeling of all. Just then, a rope at a construction site suddenly snapped, and a massive steel beam came crashing down. It was about to fall right on Rinko. In the nick of time, Takeo dashed forward. He used his body to hold up the enormous beam, his face contorted from the effort. Obviously using all his strength, Rinko was safe, and Makoto escorted her away. In that moment, Takeo realized something. His instinct was to take on danger in critical moments, while Makoto's instinct was to protect girls. He understood that he could never be a prince, and he would never earn Rinko's affection. He didn't blame Makoto. He just felt he wasn't handsome enough, that he could never be like Makoto. But even so, as long as Rinko could be with Makoto, even if he were crushed by that steel beam today, he would accept it willingly. Takeo gradually grew weak. Just then, Makoto returned, and behind him was Rinko, cheeks flushed red, straining to hold up the beam. Seeing Rinko struggle, Takeo suddenly found a surge of energy, and with one effort, he threw the steel beam aside. The three of them were finally safe. But Takeo's face had been injured. Rinko quickly took out a bandage to patch him up. Her gentle demeanor completely captivated Takeo, and the air seemed to be filled with the scent of love. He was so immersed in the feeling that he walked into a utility pole, fell into a well, and even wandered distractedly while crossing the street. It wasn't until Makoto called out Rinko that he finally came back to his senses. The next day, Rinko surprisingly asked Takeo to meet her alone. She had dressed up carefully, and once again brought the treats he liked. Takeo began praising Makoto again, constantly talking about Makoto's good qualities in front of Rinko, repeatedly emphasizing that Makoto was still single. Rinko wasn't stupid. She got what he meant, but tears suddenly started running down her face. Takeo panicked completely. He couldn't understand why Rinko was sad. Furious, he ran to Makoto's house, shouting and demanding to know if Makoto had done something to upset Rinko. Makoto, however, remained calm and said Rinko had always liked Takeo. Takeo's face was full of disbelief. Seeing that Takeo didn't believe him, Makoto had no choice but to reveal the truth. Rinko had liked him from the very beginning, which was why she had sent treats repeatedly. These were the words Rinko had spoken to Makoto when Takeo hid in the toilet to wash his face last time. But Takeo still didn't believe it. The girls around him had liked Makoto because Makoto was handsome, while he looked like a gorilla. That day, Makoto had even complimented Rinko, so Takeo assumed Makoto liked her too. Makoto explained further, the reason he complimented Rinko was because she was the only one who spoke well of Takeo in front of him, and praised Takeo's bravery. All the other girls, without exception, despised Takeo's looks, and even talked badly about him behind his back. That was why Makoto had always rejected their confessions. He didn't want to date girls who spoke ill of his friend. Takeo's eyes instantly filled with tears. So all these years, Makoto had been rejecting those girls for Takeo's sake. Even so, he still couldn't believe that Rinko liked him. At that moment, Makoto's mother suddenly said there was a girl named Rinko outside who wanted to see Makoto. To make Takeo believe the truth, Makoto told him to hide under the bed. Soon, Rinko came in, crying and saying she had failed in confessing her feelings today. Not knowing what to do, she really liked Takeo and wanted Makoto to help her think of a way. Suddenly, Takeo's big hand slammed heavily on the floor. He was so excited he almost tipped over the bed. At first, Rinko felt embarrassed, but since Takeo had heard her, she gathered her courage and spoke her heart. She had actually liked Takeo from the bus ride onward. Love had arrived just like that, filling the air with sweetness. They finally officially started dating. To thank Makoto for his help, Rinko specially made a cake for him, and even wanted to set him up with a girlfriend. But Makoto refused. Seeing Makoto looking lonely, Takeo suddenly remembered something from their childhood. Since they were very young, Makoto had always silently cared for him. Never considering his own feelings, he said excitedly, "Makoto, it's just like the blue ogre in that play we watched as kids, always giving, never caring about your own feelings." Rinko didn't know the story of the blue ogre, so Takeo explained it to her. A long time ago, there lived a red ogre in the mountains. He was ugly and frightening, so the villagers avoided him. But the red ogre had a kind heart, and really wanted to be friends with the villagers. His friend, the blue ogre, came up with a plan. He would dress up to look scary and cause trouble in the village. Then let the red ogre defeat him, so the villagers would trust the red ogre and be willing to be his friend. The plan worked perfectly. After the blue ogre's antics, the villagers really began to trust the red ogre, and the red ogre made many friends. But after the joy, the red ogre hadn't seen the blue ogre for a long time. He rushed to the blue ogre's home, only to find a note left behind, which read, "You finally made friends. If I stayed here, the villagers might become suspicious. So I've decided to leave forever." After that, he never saw the blue ogre again. Takeo felt that Makoto in his heart was just like the blue ogre. He cried and hugged Makoto tightly, almost making it hard for him to breathe. This was Makoto, always choosing to be alone for the sake of a friend. For Takeo, he would do anything without hesitation. As long as Takeo needed him, he would always be there first. To make sure Makoto could also find happiness, Takeo organized a mixer, asking Rinko to bring all the single girls. But when those girls saw Takeo, they were all taken aback. Unable to understand why Makoto thought he was handsome, two of the girls made an excuse to go to the restroom, and once outside, began speaking ill of Takeo, mocking him for looking like a gorilla, assuming he was simple-minded, and all brawn with no brains. Unexpectedly, Takeo and Rinko overheard every word. Rinko instantly got angry. She wouldn't allow anyone to speak badly of Takeo. She stormed off in a fury. It took Takeo a while to catch up to her, and just as he comforted her, an explosion suddenly occurred upstairs. People scattered in fear. Makoto led the others to safety, but the two girls who had spoken badly of Takeo were trapped upstairs. Without hesitation, Takeo poured water over his head and rushed in immediately. He couldn't let Rinko's friends get hurt. He elbowed open the escape route, quickly rescuing the first girl. Then, ignoring the roaring flames, he went back to save the second girl. At that moment, the air conditioner above the ceiling suddenly fell. Takeo dashed forward, using his body to hold up the falling AC unit, telling the girl to run immediately. But just as she escaped, the burning roof collapsed, crashing heavily on Takeo. He couldn't move. The thick smoke made it hard to breathe, and he realized in his heart, this time, he might really die here. He wasn't afraid of death, only that his newfound love might end like this. Just as he was growing weak, his phone rang suddenly. It was Makoto calling. From the other end came Rinko's crying voice. He suddenly remembered. His best friend and the girl he loved were still waiting for him. Looking at Rinko's photo on the phone, he made a firm decision. No matter what, he would survive. His strength suddenly surged, and he finally burst out of the flames. Rinko was so moved she couldn't speak. Takeo not only saved everyone, he also saved himself. The girls who had spoken badly about him earlier came over to thank him, and only then did they realize Takeo was actually so handsome. They also thought Rinko really had great taste. At this moment, Takeo's confident demeanor made him look especially heroic. Just as he had said, "Everyone else fears me because of my appearance, but you always smile at me. I don't care what others think of us. I only care that I get to be with you. May you also, like Takeo, have someone you love by your side, and friends who always stand with you. A life like that, that is enough to feel complete."